I'm sitting in my den right now, surrounded by hunting trophies from better days. The mounted deer heads on the walls seem to be watching me with their glass eyes as I pour my third glass of bourbon. My prized rifle collection gleams in the gun cabinet across the room. 12 beautiful pieces I've collected over the years. I never thought I'd consider using them for anything other than hunting. Funny how life changes your perspective. My hands are shaking as I write this, and my mind keeps racing back to that moment that changed everything. The bourbon isn't helping much, but at least it dulls the pain. I'm 32, own a construction company that I built from the ground up over the last decade, and have been married to Ashley, 30, for 4 years. Until yesterday, I thought I had the perfect marriage, the kind people write about in those cheesy romance novels. We met at a charity gala where her design firm was showcasing their work. She was this vibrant, confident woman who completely swept me off my feet. Our courtship was like a whirlwind, fancy dinners, spontaneous weekend trips, and endless nights of talking about our dreams. Even from the start, Sarah was always there, Ashley's best friend and confidant. They'd been inseparable since college, and I thought it was great that my wife had such a close friend. Sarah was the one who helped me plan the proposal, who organized our engagement party, who spent countless hours helping us pick the perfect venue. We got married in a beautiful ceremony in the Bahamas, where Sarah was the maid of honor and gave this heartfelt speech about their friendship that brought tears to everyone's eyes. Since then, life has been like a dream. We've traveled to 20 different countries, recently bought a stunning colonial-style house in the suburbs, and we're planning to start trying for our first child next year. I poured myself into growing my construction business, expanding from residential projects into commercial real estate development. The work was demanding. Early mornings at job sites, late nights reviewing contracts, constant meetings with investors and architects. But I loved every minute of it, and Ashley seemed to understand. She was busy too, running her interior design business, often collaborating with Sarah on bigger projects. We had what I thought was the perfect setup. While I handled the construction side of things, Ashley and Sarah would work together on the interior design aspects. They'd spend long hours together at the office, go on business trips to source materials and meet clients, and often work late into the night on urgent projects. I never questioned any of it. Why would I? They were best friends and successful business partners. Looking back now, I feel like such an idiot. Everything changed last Friday. I had a major client meeting scheduled for the afternoon. We were bidding on a multi-million-dollar development project, the kind that could take our company to the next level. The client called an hour before to reschedule, saying their investors needed more time to review the proposals. Frustrated but unable to do anything about it, I decided to head home early and maybe surprise Ashley with dinner plans. Maybe take her to that new French restaurant she'd been talking about. I still remember every detail of what happened next, like it's seared into my brain. After parking my car in the garage, I heard strange sounds from upstairs. At first, I thought we had burglars. We'd had a break-in attempt in our neighborhood just last month, and I'd been meaning to upgrade our security system. My heart pounding, I quietly climbed the stairs, already reaching for my phone to call 911 if needed. The door to our master bedroom was slightly open, and I could hear muffled voices and movement. Something in me, call it instinct or paranoia, made me pull out my phone and start recording. What I captured through that crack changed my life forever. My wife was in bed with Sarah. They were completely lost in each other, tangled in our Egyptian cotton sheets, the ones we'd picked out together during our anniversary trip to Dubai. The intimacy between them was shocking, the way they touched each other, the soft whispers, the knowing smiles. This wasn't just sex. This was the kind of intimacy that comes from a long-term relationship. I kept recording, my hands steady despite the chaos in my mind. All those late nights working, the business trips, the private jokes I never quite understood. It was all becoming crystal clear. After gathering enough evidence, I pushed the door open. The sound of it hitting the wall made them both jump. Ashley screamed, grabbing at sheets to cover herself, while Sarah just froze, her lipstick smeared across her face. The look of panic in their eyes would have been almost comical if it wasn't so devastating. "Don't stop on my account," I said, my voice somehow steadier than I felt. My phone was still recording, capturing their shocked expressions. Ashley's face cycled through emotions like a slot machine: fear, guilt, calculation, and finally, something that looked like excitement. Ashley recovered first, running her fingers through her disheveled hair. "Baby, this isn't... Well, actually, it is exactly what it looks like." Her tone shifted from panic to something else, something seductive and practiced, like she'd rehearsed this scenario. "But maybe that's not such a bad thing?" She exchanged a meaningful look with Sarah, who was now sitting up, letting the sheet fall deliberately. Sarah's professional composure, the same one she used during our business meetings, was completely gone. Her lipstick was smeared, hair wild, but she didn't seem embarrassed at all. If anything, she looked thrilled by the situation. "We've been talking about this for weeks," she purred, moving to sit on the edge of the bed. "About including you, making this a regular thing." "Think about it," Ashley added, crawling towards the foot of the bed. "No more lies, no more sneaking around. We could all be together." She reached out to touch my arm, but I instinctively stepped back. "The things we could do together, Sarah and I have so many ideas." They began describing their fantasies in explicit detail, scenarios they'd clearly discussed before, positions they wanted to try, rules they wanted to establish. They'd thought this through, planned it out. Sarah even mentioned weekend getaways they'd already researched, private resorts that catered to alternative lifestyles. I stood there, my mind racing. A part of me wanted to scream, to throw things, to let out all the rage building inside. But a colder, more calculating part knew this wasn't the moment. I needed to play this smart. I can't," I managed to say, making my voice shake slightly. "This is too much. I need some air." I backed away, making sure to seem overwhelmed rather than angry. Inside, though, I knew with absolute certainty that this was the end of my marriage. The video in my phone felt heavy with the weight of its implications. "Wait!" Ashley scrambled off the bed, not even bothering with the sheet anymore. "You don't have to decide right now. We can take it slow." She tried to block my path to the door, her body language shifting between seductive and desperate. "Remember how you used to say you wanted to spice things up? This could be perfect for us." Sarah joined her, wrapping an arm around Ashley's waist possessively. "We've already worked everything out," she said, her professional negotiation skills creeping back in. "Ground rules, boundaries, schedules. No one has to get hurt. In fact," she smiled, trailing a finger down Ashley's arm, "we could all get exactly what we want." The way they moved together, finished each other's sentences, touched each other so casually. It was clear this wasn't just about sex. They had a whole relationship built right under my nose, and now they wanted to retrofit me into their perfect little world. The sheer audacity of it made me feel sick. I was already heading down the stairs, my mind clear despite my pretend confusion. I kept the recording going until I reached my car, capturing their hurried footsteps and whispered arguments behind me. I spent hours driving aimlessly around the city, my mind replaying not just that scene but every moment of our marriage. Every time Ashley and Sarah had shared knowing looks across our dinner table. Every time they'd disappeared together at parties for girl talk. Every weekend business trip that seemed to run longer than necessary. The signs had been there all along, but I'd been too blind, too trusting to see them. I came back home past midnight, half hoping Ashley would be gone, half hoping she'd be there waiting to explain everything. She was in the kitchen, acting like it was just another normal night. She'd made my favorite lasagna, talked about her day as if nothing had happened, even suggested we watch that new Netflix show we'd been planning to start. I couldn't bring myself to look her in the eyes. I made up an excuse about a rough day at work and went to bed early, spending the night tossing and turning on the couch in my home office. The next morning, while I was at a job site trying to focus on work, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. It was Sarah. The message made my blood run cold. "We saw you yesterday. We've been waiting for the right moment to tell you everything. Ashley and I want to make you an offer." What followed was an explicit invitation to join them, complete with intimate details about their relationship and what they wanted to do with me. They've apparently been planning this for weeks, waiting for the right moment to invite me in. After some more messages back and forth, the full truth came out. This has been going on for over a year, since even before we bought our house. They meet not only at our home but in expensive hotels during fake business trips. Some of Ashley's design consultations were actually romantic getaways with Sarah. They've been living this whole secret life while I remained oblivious, probably laughing at how clueless I was. Ashley still hasn't said a word about seeing me there. She's going about our daily routine like everything's normal, but there's this new glint in her eye when she looks at me. She keeps finding excuses to touch me, to be close to me, all while exchanging texts with Sarah that I can sometimes see lighting up her phone. It's like some sick game they're playing, and I don't know the rules. I keep staring at these hunting trophies on my walls, remembering how each one has its own story. But none of those hunts prepared me for being the prey. My whole world is falling apart, and I'm watching it happen through the bottom of a bourbon glass. Tomorrow they want to talk over dinner. I know it's a trap, but what choice do I have? Sometimes the hunter becomes the hunted. You know what's funny about catching someone in the act of cheating? Time seems to split into two streams. There's the world before you knew, and the world after. I'm back in my den now, watching ice melt in my third glass of bourbon. The video I recorded earlier today is safely backed up in 3 different places. My private cloud storage, an encrypted hard drive, and a USB stick in my gun safe. Some might call it excessive, but in construction, I learned that you can never have too many backups of important documents. After I left them scrambling in the bedroom, I drove straight to my office. It was Saturday, so the building was empty. Just me and my thoughts in the corner office I'd worked so hard to earn. My hands were steady enough to plug my phone into the computer and save multiple copies of the video before anyone could try to delete it. 15 minutes of undeniable evidence. Their confession, their proposition, the way they tried to manipulate me into their sick game. Everything. The lawyer's going to love this. Ashley's been blowing up my phone all afternoon. 43 missed calls and counting. I've been watching the notifications pile up, each one more desperate than the last. The messages started frantic. Please come home. We need to talk about this. It's not what you think. Let me explain everything. Then turn seductive. Think about what we offered. It could be amazing. We could all be so happy together. Don't you want to know what it would feel like? She's playing every card she can think of, but she doesn't realize I'm not playing anymore. What's really getting to me is how they're trying to rewrite our entire history. The latest barrage of messages from Ashley is a masterclass in manipulation. She sent me detailed accounts of our relationship, carefully reframing every major moment to fit their narrative. According to her, she's always been this way, and was just trying to find the right time to tell me. She claims she still loves me, that this doesn't change anything between us, that it could make our marriage stronger. Every memory we've shared is being tainted. Our first anniversary trip to the Maldives? Apparently, Sarah helped plan the whole thing, choosing the resort because she knew it would be perfect for us. The surprise birthday party Ashley threw for me last year? Sarah was there for every planning session, helping to make it special. Even our house hunting. Sarah apparently influenced which house we bought because she knew she'd be spending a lot of time here. It's like they've been directing a play, and I've been the only one who didn't have a script. Sarah's approach to all this has been more calculated, which somehow makes it worse. She sent a detailed email around 3 p.m., very professional, like she was proposing a business merger instead of the destruction of my marriage. It came complete with attachments, charts, and a proposed timeline. She outlined their whole plan, how they'd gradually introduce me to their lifestyle, the rules they'd establish, even a suggested schedule for shared time. The email included links to articles about successful polyamorous relationships and the contact information for couples therapists who specialize in alternative arrangements. The whole thing reads like a project proposal, complete with projected outcomes and risk management strategies. The most bizarre attachment was a detailed spreadsheet breaking down our proposed living arrangements. They had planned everything down to the smallest detail. Rotating sleeping schedules with color-coded calendars showing couple time and group time. Proposed renovations to turn our guest wing into Sarah's private suite, complete with design mock-ups, and even a budget breakdown for shared expenses. They drafted guidelines for public behavior, including appropriate levels of affection in different social settings, and a social media strategy to normalize Sarah's presence in our lives. They even had a list of suggested responses for questions from friends and family. But it gets worse. Going through our financial records, a task I approached with the same attention to detail I use for construction bids, I discovered exactly how deep this goes. The pattern is clear once you know what to look for. Regular charges at the Westin downtown, always on Thursdays when I had late meetings at construction sites. Expensive dinners for two at restaurants where Ashley claimed she was meeting clients. Jewelry purchases from a boutique that Sarah supposedly needed to source materials from. They weren't just cheating on me. They were using my company's success to fund their affair. The most twisted part? Looking back, I can see how they'd recently started leaving breadcrumbs, probably hoping I'd catch on gradually. Sarah accidentally leaving her perfume in our bathroom. Ashley being more obvious about her phone calls. The lingering touches between them at dinner parties. They were setting the stage for their grand proposal, thinking they could manipulate me into accepting their arrangement. They thought they were hunting me, but they didn't realize I was gathering evidence the whole time. An hour ago, Sarah sent another message. This one was different, less professional, more raw. She confessed that she's been in love with Ashley since their sophomore year in college, long before I was in the picture. She claims they tried to fight their feelings back then, that they didn't mean for it to happen this way. Then she had the audacity to suggest that her business relationship with me, all those joint projects between our companies, was her way of being close to Ashley while respecting our marriage. The level of manipulation is almost impressive. Looking at my rifle collection now, I remember what my grandfather taught me about hunting. Patience is everything. You don't take the shot until you're absolutely ready. Well, I've got all the ammunition I need now. The video, the financial records, the emails, it's all properly documented and secured. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with the best divorce lawyer in the city. Ashley and Sarah think they're so clever with their little games, but they have no idea what's coming. I've already started moving money into separate accounts, nothing illegal, just protecting what's mine. The lawyer will make sure everything's above board. I've also been documenting every interaction, every message, every call. In the construction business, you learn that documentation is everything. The same principle applies here. Every piece of evidence is another nail in the coffin of their perfect little plan. For now, though, I'm letting them stew in their uncertainty. They're probably back in our bedroom, our marital bed, planning their next move, thinking they still have a chance to salvage their plan. Let them plot. Let them scheme. The hunter always waits for the perfect moment to strike. Morning light is creeping through my den's windows, catching the dust motes in its beam. I've been up all night, watching the bourbon level in my bottle drop while planning my next moves like plotting coordinates for a long-range shot. The meeting with my lawyer is in 3 hours. On my desk, there's a stack of documents that tell the story of my marriage's dissolution in cold, hard numbers. Last night took an unexpected turn. Around midnight, Ashley and Sarah decided to escalate their game. I was in my den, reviewing financial records, when I heard their car pull into the driveway. They'd been out somewhere, probably planning their next move. I could hear their heels on the hardwood floors, their whispered conversations. Then Ashley knocked on my den door. "Baby, we brought dinner. Your favorite from that Italian place." I didn't respond. Through the door's beveled glass, I could see their silhouettes, Ashley in front, Sarah lingering behind. They were dressed for seduction. Ashley in that red dress I bought her for our anniversary, Sarah in something equally revealing. The air was heavy with their perfumes mixing together. "We really need to talk," Ashley said, her voice doing that thing it does when she wants something. "We brought wine, the Bordeaux you love." When I still didn't respond, they changed tactics. Sarah's voice came next, professional and controlled. "We've been doing some research. There are counselors who specialize in cases like ours. We could all go together." Ashley chimed in. "Think about the business opportunities. Our companies could merge. We'd be unstoppable in the luxury construction and design market." I almost laughed at that. They were really trying to sell me on the financial benefits of my own wife cheating on me. Through the glass, I could see them exchanging glances, recalibrating their strategy like hunters adjusting their aim. Sarah reached for the door handle, but I'd locked it. Smart girl. She pulled back before making contact. They know I keep my guns in here. Fine. Ashley finally snapped, her seductive tone cracking. Be childish. Hide in your little man cave with your guns and your bourbon. But this conversation is going to happen eventually. Sarah tried to shush her, but Ashley was on a roll. You think you're so clever, don't you? Recording us? Moving money around? Yeah, we know all about that. Did you really think we wouldn't notice? That got my attention. I'd been careful with the accounts, but clearly not careful enough. I made a mental note to tell my lawyer. Through the door, I could hear Sarah trying to calm Ashley down, their voices dropping to urgent whispers. Then Sarah took control. Listen, we understand you're hurt. This isn't how we wanted you to find out. But fighting us will only make things messier. Think about your reputation in the industry. Think about what people will say. There it was. The threat wrapped in concern. The velvet glove hiding the steel fist. Classic Sarah. She continued, her voice honey smooth. Nobody needs to get hurt here. We can handle this like adults. The three of us could have something beautiful. Or, she let the word hang there, heavy with implication. I finally spoke, keeping my voice steady. Or what, Sarah? Or we can let our lawyers figure it out, she replied. But remember, we have evidence too. Those angry messages you sent Ashley. The security footage of you drinking in your office. The gun collection you spend so much time with lately. How do you think that will look to a judge? They'd clearly been planning this conversation, probably rehearsed it together. Ashley picked up the thread. Baby, please, just open the door. Let's talk about this. Remember when you said you'd do anything to make me happy? This could make me so happy. I stayed silent, listening to them trying to manipulate me. It was fascinating in a twisted way. They alternated between threats and seduction, playing good cop/bad cop like they'd practiced it. Maybe they had. After all, they'd been practicing deception for over a year. Sarah tried again. What if we start small? Just dinner together. No commitments. Let us explain everything properly. You might find you like what we're offering. Her voice dropped lower, more intimate. You've always said I have good business instincts. Trust those instincts now. This could be beneficial for everyone. When I didn't respond, they changed tactics again. Fine, Ashley snapped. Have it your way. But don't think you can just ignore this. We live in the same house. We share a bed. What's your plan? Sleep in your den forever. I could hear the frustration in her voice, the facade cracking. That's the thing about hunters, patience wins out over aggression every time. Actually, I finally said, I have a better idea. I pulled out my phone and played back part of their conversation from earlier. The threats, the manipulation, all of it captured clearly. Just adding to my collection of evidence. You two should probably leave now. The silence on the other side of the door was deafening. Then came the sound of heels retreating, angry whispers fading down the hallway. 10 minutes later, I heard their car start up and drive away. But they weren't done yet. An hour later, my phone lit up with a series of notifications. They'd started their social media campaign early. Ashley had posted a cryptic status about misunderstandings and hoping for healing. Sarah shared some article about modern relationships and expanding definitions of love. The comments section quickly filled with our mutual friends expressing concern and support. All for her, of course. They were laying the groundwork, trying to control the narrative before I could expose the truth. Then came the coordinated text messages from friends. First Mike, my hunting buddy, asking if everything was okay at home. Then Lisa from the country club, mentioning that Ashley seemed upset at their lunch yesterday. Even my sister called, worried about some concerning messages Ashley had sent her. They were building their case piece by piece, painting me as the unstable one. The most interesting message came from Robert, my business partner. Sarah had apparently reached out to him with concerns about my mental state affecting our company. She suggested a private meeting to discuss the situation, no doubt planning to poison another well. I forwarded everything to my lawyer. Every message, every post, every manipulative little breadcrumb they were dropping. The night stretched on as I meticulously documented everything. The recording of their threats is backed up just like the original video. It's amazing how people reveal their true selves when they think they have the upper hand. My phone keeps buzzing with updates. Their posts are gaining traction in our social circle. Friends are taking sides, even though they don't know what the sides are yet. Ashley's sister just posted about standing by family in difficult times. Sarah's business Instagram shared a quote about weathering storms together. They're orchestrating a symphony of sympathy, and I'm being cast as the villain. But they don't know about my own preparations. While they're busy with their social media theater, I've been methodically documenting their financial indiscretions. Every hotel receipt, every expensive dinner, every gift they bought with company money. It's all categorized and dated. I've even found evidence of them using my business connections for their personal gain, steering contracts towards friendly parties who would keep their secret. The lawyer I'm meeting isn't just good, he's the best in the state for high-profile divorces. Expensive, but worth every penny. I've already sent him copies of everything. The video, the financial records, last night's recording, the social media posts, the text messages from friends. His preliminary response was enlightening. They're trying to build a narrative of mental instability to counter any evidence you might present. Classic gaslighting technique. But they've made some crucial mistakes. He's right. In their rush to paint me as unstable, they've left a trail of their own instability. Ashley's rapidly shifting emotional states in her messages, Sarah's calculated threats, their clumsy attempts at manipulation. It all paints a picture, just not the one they intended. Their coordinated social media campaign, that shows premeditation. The financial records, evidence of long-term deception. Their threats about my gun collection, attempted coercion. I've also been working on the business angle. While they were busy trying to manipulate our social circle, I've been in contact with my company's board. A brief meeting is scheduled for next week to discuss restructuring our business relationships. Sarah's firm has several ongoing contracts with my company, contracts that are about to come under very close scrutiny. It's amazing what you can find when you start really looking at the paperwork. The sun's climbing higher now, turning my den into a checkerboard of light and shadow. Each trophy on my wall reminds me of a successful hunt, of patience rewarded and skill recognized. This situation isn't so different. I check my watch. Time to shower, put on my best suit, and start the process of dismantling the elaborate trap they tried to set for me. They wanted to play games? Fine. The real hunt is about to begin. The meeting with my lawyer went exactly as I'd hoped. Richard Davidson's office occupies the entire top floor of a downtown high-rise, with a view that makes you feel like you're looking down on the whole world. Appropriate, given his reputation. His corner office is decorated with abstract art and legal awards, but what caught my eye was a small trophy on his desk. A mounted marlin. A fellow hunter. They've made every mistake in the book, Davidson said, scrolling through the evidence on his tablet. The video itself is damning enough, but their subsequent behavior? He shook his head, almost admiringly. The threats, the manipulation attempts, the coordinated social media campaign, they're practically writing our case for us. We spent 3 hours going through everything. Davidson's team had already started documenting the financial trail, cross-referencing hotel stays with Ashley's supposed client meetings and Sarah's business trips. They found patterns I hadn't even noticed, like how their rendezvous often coincided with my company's board meetings, times when they knew I'd be unavailable for hours. The business angle is particularly interesting, Davidson mused, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses. Sarah's firm has received a disproportionate amount of contracts from your company's projects. The timing of these contracts, he pulled up a spreadsheet, correlates perfectly with the start of their affair. We can argue this wasn't just infidelity. It was corporate espionage. As we talked strategy, my phone kept buzzing. Ashley and Sarah had escalated their campaign. Someone, probably Sarah, had leaked to our social circle that I was acting erratically and had barricaded myself in my den with my guns. The concerned messages were pouring in. Even my mother called, her voice shaking as she asked if I needed professional help. Davidson seemed pleased by this development. "They're overplaying their hand," he explained. "The more dramatic they get, the easier it is to paint them as the unstable ones. Keep saving everything. Every message, every post, every call log. We'll use their own tactics against them." Just then, his secretary buzzed in. Sarah had arrived at the office, unannounced, asking to speak with me. She claimed it was about ongoing business contracts. Davidson raised an eyebrow. "Bold move. Want to hear what she has to say?" I nodded. Davidson pressed the intercom. "Send her in." He gave me a knowing look. "Remember, say nothing about the divorce. Let's see what cards she plays." Sarah walked in like she was entering a boardroom presentation, all professional confidence in her tailored suit. She faltered slightly when she saw me, but recovered quickly. "I'm glad I caught you both," she said smoothly. "We need to discuss the Johnson development project. There are some contractual matters that require immediate attention." Davidson leaned back in his chair, playing along. "Of course. Please elaborate." What followed was a masterclass in corporate doublespeak. Sarah outlined concerns about project timelines, hinted at potential public relations implications if contracts were suddenly reviewed, and emphasized the mutual benefits of maintaining our current business relationship, all while shooting meaningful glances my way. I stayed silent, watching her perform. She was good, every word carefully chosen, every gesture calculated. But there was an edge of desperation in her voice, a slight tremor in her usually steady hands. She was scared. "And of course," she concluded, "this all ties into the broader discussion about our personal arrangements. The ones we discussed last night." She placed a folder on Davidson's desk. "I've prepared a detailed proposal for how we can move forward, professionally and personally." Davidson picked up the folder, skimmed its contents, and smiled. Not a friendly smile, the kind of smile I've seen on wolves in my hunting trips. "Ms. Wilson, are you attempting to leverage business contracts to influence my client's personal decisions? That could be considered coercion." Sarah's composure cracked, just for a moment. "Not at all. I'm simply suggesting a mutually beneficial arrangement that would avoid any unnecessary complications." "Interesting choice of words," Davidson replied, making notes. "Would these unnecessary complications include the video evidence of your affair? Or perhaps the financial records showing how you and Mrs. Harrison have been misappropriating company funds?" The color drained from Sarah's face. She hadn't expected us to have that information. Her eyes darted to me, then back to Davidson. "I think you're misinterpreting." "No, Ms. Wilson, I don't think I am." Davidson's voice was ice cold. "But please, continue. My recorder is catching every word." Sarah stood abruptly, gathering her things. "I should consult with my lawyer." "Excellent idea," Davidson said. "Oh, and Ms. Wilson, the next time you want to attempt blackmail, try not to do it in front of a lawyer. And definitely don't put it in writing." He tapped the folder she'd brought. After she left, Davidson turned to me with a predatory grin. "That was a gift. She just strengthened our case considerably. Attempted coercion, blackmail implications, misuse of corporate resources. I almost feel bad for her lawyer." By the time I left Davidson's office, things were already in motion. His team was preparing injunctions to freeze certain business assets, drafting motions to protect company interests, and documenting every interaction. "Go home," he advised. "Act normal. Let them keep making mistakes. The more they panic, the more ammunition they give us." The drive home was surreal. The city looked different somehow, like everything had shifted slightly while I wasn't looking. My phone showed missed calls from Ashley. She must have heard about Sarah's failed ambush at the lawyer's office. There were also messages from business associates, friends, even our country club membership committee. News was spreading. I stopped at a red light and checked one of Ashley's messages. Whatever Sarah said, she wasn't speaking for both of us. Please come home. We can still fix this. Another message popped up, this one from Sarah. That meeting wasn't what you think. Let me explain everything. The light turned green. I drove past our favorite restaurants, the shops where we used to spend weekends, all the landmarks of our marriage. Each one felt tainted now, every memory rewritten by their deception. But unlike them, I wasn't going to let emotions drive my decisions. Like any good hunter, I was going to stay calm, stay focused, and wait for the perfect moment. When I pulled into our driveway, Ashley's car was there. Sarah's wasn't. Smart girl must have warned her about how the meeting went. Through the windows, I could see lights on in the kitchen. Ashley was probably waiting, ready with another performance, another attempt at manipulation. Let her wait. I parked in the garage and sat there for a moment, listening to the engine tick as it cooled. On my phone, Davidson had sent the initial divorce filing for my review. Everything was lined up, the evidence, the testimonies, the financial records. Tomorrow, Ashley would be served with papers at her office. Sarah's firm would receive notice of contract reviews. Their carefully constructed world was about to implode. Looking at our house, I remembered all the dreams we'd had when we bought it. The family we'd planned to raise here, the memories we were supposed to make. Now it was just another battlefield, another hunting ground. And like my grandfather always said about hunting, once you have your target in your sights, you don't hesitate. You take the shot. I grabbed my briefcase and headed inside. Time to play one last round of their game, knowing that tomorrow, everything changes. The hunter becomes the hunted, and I've got them right where I want them. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. Sitting in my den now, 3 weeks after the divorce papers were served, I'd say it's more like a perfectly executed hunt. All about timing, patience, and knowing exactly where to aim. The day Ashley was served the papers, all hell broke loose. I was in a meeting with potential investors when my phone started blowing up. Ashley had received the documents in front of her entire office, Davidson's suggestion, making it public and undeniable. Within minutes, Sarah was also served with notices of contract review and a preliminary investigation into business improprieties. Their carefully constructed world crumbled in less than an hour. Ashley's hysterical voice messages started immediately. How could you do this to me? To us? Then came Sarah's more measured but equally panicked emails about discussing this rationally and finding mutually beneficial solutions. Their confident facade was finally cracking. The most satisfying moment came that evening. I was in my den, watching their social media meltdown through the security cameras I'd had installed. Ashley came home in a rage, Sarah right behind her. They burst into the house, heading straight for my den, probably expecting another confrontation. Instead, they found a professionally installed security system and a notice from my lawyer. The house was now under video surveillance, and any attempts to enter my private space would be considered criminal trespassing. Their reaction was priceless. Ashley started screaming about how this was her house too. While Sarah tried to stop her from making a scene, too late, it was all being recorded. When they finally noticed the camera in the corner, Sarah practically dragged Ashley out of the house. Score 1 for the hunter. The next few days were a symphony of chaos. Their social media campaign backfired spectacularly. Someone, probably one of their scorned business associates, leaked the video of their confrontation at my den door. Their threats, their manipulation attempts, all of it went public. The unstable gun collector narrative they'd tried to spin suddenly looked very different when people saw who was really doing the threatening. The business fallout was even more dramatic. The board meeting about Sarah's contracts turned into a full audit. Turns out, they'd been less careful with the company finances than they thought. Multiple projects had inflated budgets, with the excess funds being channeled into their little love nest, a condo registered under a shell company. They'd used my own company's money to fund their affair, and now every penny was being traced. Ashley's design firm started hemorrhaging clients as soon as the story spread. Society wives don't take kindly to interior designers who sleep with their clients' spouses. Sarah's professional reputation wasn't faring much better. The business community's surprisingly traditional when it comes to people who mix personal affairs with contract negotiations. Their few attempts at damage control just made things worse. Ashley tried to paint herself as the victim of a controlling husband, but the evidence said otherwise. Sarah attempted to frame it as a personal matter that shouldn't affect business relationships, but her emails proving she'd leveraged contracts for personal gain said differently. Every move they made just dug them deeper. The most interesting development came from an unexpected source. Remember that condo they'd been using? Turns out they'd hosted some interesting parties there. Other couples, other secrets. When news of the audit broke, several prominent figures in our social circle suddenly became very interested in keeping things quiet. Davidson's been fielding calls all week from people wanting to contribute to a settlement. I almost felt bad for them. Almost. Last week, I saw Ashley at our country club, my country club now. Her membership was revoked. She looked awful, defeated. She tried to approach me, probably to attempt another manipulation, but security intervened. Part of the new restraining order Davidson recommended. As she was escorted out, I caught a glimpse of her left hand. Wedding ring already gone. Sarah's faring slightly better, but not much. Her firm's under investigation for contract irregularities. Several of her biggest clients have jumped ship. She tried to reach out through intermediaries, offering to reveal everything about Ashley's other indiscretions in exchange for dropping the contract reviews. Too little, too late. Like my grandfather always said, a wounded animal is the most dangerous. Best to keep your distance and let nature take its course. The divorce proceedings are moving quickly. Davidson's evidence was overwhelming: the video, the financial records, the documented manipulation attempts, the failed blackmail. Ashley's lawyer advised her to settle. Smart move. The prenup I insisted on, the one she thought was just a formality, turned out to be very thorough about infidelity. Sarah's legal troubles are just beginning. The board's investigation uncovered irregularities going back years. Other clients are coming forward, reviewing their contracts, finding similar patterns. She's facing possible disbarment for ethics violations. Turns out, sleeping with your business partner's wife while embezzling from their company is frowned upon in professional circles. The most vindictive part? They're turning on each other. Ashley's lawyer has suggested that Sarah coerced her into the affair, using business contracts as leverage. Sarah's team is painting Ashley as the instigator, claiming she used her position as my wife to manipulate business dealings. Their perfect little love story is unraveling faster than cheap polyester. Their latest desperate move? Trying to leak the true story to local gossip columns. Unfortunately for them, Davidson had already handled that angle. The major local publications received copies of the evidence, their threats, their manipulation attempts, their financial misconduct. Any attempt to paint themselves as victims was dead on arrival. My company's doing better than ever. The audit revealed several other questionable contracts that had nothing to do with Ashley and Sarah. Cleaning house has improved our reputation and stock price. Investors love a good redemption story, especially when it comes with improved corporate governance. The house is quiet now. Ashley moved out last week, probably to that condo they thought I didn't know about. Sarah's been spotted apartment hunting in another city. Her firm's local reputation is pretty much destroyed. Their carefully built web of lies and manipulation has collapsed, leaving them with nothing but consequences. Some might say I was too harsh, too methodical in my takedown. But as any hunter knows, when you're dealing with dangerous game, you can't afford to be sloppy. You track, you plan, you wait for the perfect moment, and then you take the shot. No hesitation, no mercy. Looking at my den now, at the hunting trophies on the walls, I realize they tell a different story than before. They're no longer just reminders of successful hunts. They're testaments to patience, strategy, and the importance of knowing your prey. Ashley and Sarah thought they were the hunters, thought they could trap me in their game. They forgot the most important rule of hunting. Sometimes the prey turns out to be the predator. Davidson called earlier. The final divorce settlement is ready for signatures. Ashley's getting nothing beyond what the prenup stipulated, which isn't much. Sarah's firm is negotiating a separate settlement for the contract violations, basically paying back everything they embezzled plus penalties. Their love story cost them everything. Marriages, careers, reputations, money. The sun's setting now, painting my den in shades of amber that remind me of bourbon. I haven't touched a drop since the day the divorce papers were served. Don't need it anymore. On my desk, there's a new hunting license, Alaska this time. After everything's finalized next week, I'm taking a trip. There's something appealing about tracking game through the wilderness, where the rules are simple and true. Hunter and prey. No manipulation. No lies. The security camera shows Ashley's car pulling up to the house again. Third time this week. She'll sit there for an hour, probably hoping I'll come out. Give her one last chance to explain, to manipulate, to try her games again. But I'm done playing. Let her sit there with her regrets and realizations. The hunt is over, and she's finally learned what it feels like to be the prey.